Oh, hey, there we go. Can you guys hear me and see me? Because I can barely see the chat. so, oh, my laptop was not a fan of my live stream. So I may or may not have Jimmy rigged my phone to kind of bypass that whole 1,000 subscriber protocol on live streaming as a backup. But it does mean that I can barely see your messages. So I'm going to open up just a cheeky tab on my laptop. Can you guys all hear me? God, this is a whole lot of fun. This is very confusing and scary. Why can't I pull myself up properly on my laptop? So weird. Oh, there I am, live from lockdown. Live from lockdown. I am going to mute so there's no feedback after I figure out how loud I am. Oh, there I am, live from. Oh no, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty loud. I'm pretty loud. Okay, so I can now see your chats, which makes me happy. I can kind of relax a little bit. Am I correctly orientated on your phones? Do I need to go sideways or? Yes, waxing can be quite daunting, particularly if you do it wrong. And let me tell you, gentlemen, and also lovely ladies who may or may not have some extra appendages here and there, we have some very sensitive skin that is unfortunately extremely close to the areas that you would want to wax. Oh, what a lovely start to this live stream. You know, bikini waxing. Just need to make Jacqueline a moderator. Well, hey, two mods. Two. That's right. Two. So, I have got a very special girl having a little nap beside me. 2 seconds. As I mentioned before, my baby girl Boudica, her favorite pastime is and always will be napping inside of backpacks. Just gonna see if I can zoom. Nope. Nope. Hold on. Why is it so difficult to do it? Welcome, Ashley. Hello, Beansy. Hello, Cody. Yes, my only plan thus far in the plant community is to circumnavigate everybody's videos and become moderator of everyone, and then eventually reach my full-blown supremacy. And that is step one of the gay agenda. Sorry, guys. What's in the bag? What's in the bag? What's in the bag? Who knows what's in the bag? I know what's in the bag. That's what's in the bag. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, or the stage, depending on where you're from. Little Miss Boudica. She is she is amongst the sweetest little darlings in the world. No, she is a boa constrictor. Close though, Scott. Very close. You're the reason you probably think that is because your entire side of the planet is the home to Pythonidae, the entire family of pythons, whereas boas are only found in the Americas. Now, she does like to wander for the first few minutes. There we go. But then I can control her a little bit. Ooh. So yeah, this is Boudica. She is a real sweetheart, and she's messing with my beanie. But here she is. She's gonna come say hi. She's got a little mustache. She's got a little mustache. Oh, that's a good girl. I've had her for 5 years, Jacqueline. Um, I found her in a pretty dire state. She is just shy of 8.5 foot, though she's definitely more chonk than length, as it is usually with boas. Um, so her backstory is pretty interesting. I used to go to this pet shop in Prestwich, which is a little town just north of where I live. It was called Viper and Vine. Now, the last people who owned it were like genuine snake fanatics. They had like so many cool species and morphs, and I got on really well with them. And essentially, they had to sell the shop. And this couple bought it. This older couple bought it. Um, and they did not have a love for reptiles. What they had was a love for money, and it was bad, dude. It was very very bad. So essentially, a whole bunch of leftover stock, so that's living animals, were kind of given to the new owners, but they had no idea what they were doing, and it was a bit of a massive mess, actually. Um, and when I went up there to kind of say hello to the new people, kind of vet them out a little bit, see who they were, what they were about. And I was met of horror shows, so they had like chameleons in like on like pebbles and rocks with no climbing apparatus. There were like iguanas in the same tanks as monitor lizards. It was just like I've never seen such a mess before as I did then. Um, and I spotted Boudica in a. If you guys know what Exoterra tanks, so she was crammed as a quote unquote display animal into a 30 by 30 by 30 centimeter, so 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot cube. She was just like she was folded into it. And despite this horrible, horrible, horrible thing, she was being taken out like 3 times a day and being held by kids, by families. And do you know what's really, really, really sad but really adorable? She maintained her kind disposition despite all of that. She has always been the sweetest, most gentle animal. Um, and when I saw her, and I don't recommend doing this, I know it's hard. I know it's really, 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 really hard to not do this, and I'm lying because I did it because I'm a hypocrite. You don't want to buy when you see places like this, because in the long run, it's better for the place just to close down and not get business than it is to keep for them replacing one after the other for the same abuse. But Boudica was different. She was just too special, just too kind, just too wonderful, and I'm pretty sure I said something like, "I don't care how much she costs. I want to take her home now," and I did, and that was 5 years ago, and we've been soul sisters ever since. But she is the sweetest girl, the absolute sweetest girl. Mwah. She can be a bit coy though. When she was a bit younger, she used to love curling up in my lap. But now that she's gotten bigger and she can't really do that, she tends to want to just sort of wander around. Um, so her enclosure, Beansy, she is in a 5 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot. So it's like an industrial tub with like giant clips on the edges, and it's 5 foot by 2 foot by 1 foot high. Um, and I essentially treat it like I guess like a kind of um, what's the good word for it? Kind of like a treehouse or like a bedroom, because she spends a lot of time out with me. When I'm cleaning or doing plant stuff, she's usually on my bed having a nap. Um, I put her in there for like super long times, like days on end, unless I'm going away, obviously. But I take her out every couple of days as well to go for a bath. Um, in when she's feeding, obviously. She wouldn't stay there. She really wouldn't stay there. Trust me. When she was younger, she used to be really, really, really chill about staying in one place. But as she's gotten bigger and more confident, she just wants to kind of wander around and say hi to everything and learn everything and taste everything. Um, and one thing I do really love is, even though she's kind to everyone, she's so lovely to everyone, she knows me by smell now, like just by tasting the air around me. And if she's with anyone around me, she'll always make her way very quickly back to daddy, which but she is my sweetheart. Yeah, yeah, Elle. I essentially treat it like a kind of like a big hide, essentially, because she only really spends extended periods of time in there if she is oh if she is just eaten, in which case I give her a good 24 hours just to sleep. And I see what you're doing, I see what you're doing. Look at her. No, no, you can't have the pothos. You've broken every single plant I've ever given you. Every single one. Yes. Yes. There we go. No, don't go back there again. She really wants that pothos. I think it's a new smell for her. There we go. But yeah, she when you share your space so much with an animal like this, um, you need to really recognize that the papers and theories saying how there's like no personality and no blah blah, it's bullshit. I'm sorry. There are so many different behavioral traits, and she just keeps pushing up anyway. There are so many different behavioral traits in these animals that it will be ridiculous to see or to say that they don't have personalities, because she's amazing. And I've kept my fair share of boas. I've bred boas before. I've also got a rosy boa, which is fun enough one of the smallest species in the world, whereas this is the third biggest species. Um, and I've never met one quite as gentle and socialized and just so comfortable with people as her. Oi. Oi, 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 oi. And also, this is another thing. When it comes to larger animals, obviously they have bigger brains. And I do think that plays a role. Not to throw any shade at my royal pythons or my rosy boa or my carp python because I do love them, but when they're bigger, they have more depth. They have more of a spectrum of behaviors that really, really help. But yeah, does anyone have any other questions about Boudica? Hi. Let's just catch up on the chat a little bit because I have been nattering on about her. Joe, welcome, Joe. Don't worry about being late. And my friend is my lovely baby girl named Boudica. So Reb, I've had her for 5 years, but she was apparently 3 years old before that, but that's not true. She was pretty emaciated, really dehydrated, really skinny, and it stunted her growth significantly. So I think she was probably about 2 years old in reality. Um, and she will never quite get to the 13-foot monster size that you can see some boas getting to, just because she has had that really awful time before me being stunted. But I'm not mad, and it hasn't caused any serious issues. It just means that she's probably not going to get to be one of the giants of the world. Only frozen, garden hoe, only frozen. The UK, it is illegal to feed live. Um, there is a kind of blurred law on immediate pre-kill, particularly when it comes to specialist species. And of course, within conservation parks, those rules go away. If you have a species that is critically endangered and you need to feed it live rodents, live lizards, live snakes, you have to. But yeah, I do watch Clint's Reptiles. I really like him. There's quite an issue with some, I would say, toxic human beings chilling in the reptile community on YouTube. I would also say a lot of racist human beings chilling in the reptile community on YouTube. And I really like to avoid those at all costs. And Clint was fantastic for being just like a hearty, lovely, wonderful geek who loves reptiles, loves talking about them. Um, there are a few controversial points that I've watched of his, but the standards and the differences and the conversations about care do drastically change, literally from country to country. Exactly, Beansy. Welcome, some grumpy leftist. I love your username, by the way. Snake Discovery is very, very good. I adore them. Alex from Go Herping. Oh, is that the guy with the Afro Keeper? Is it Afro Keeper? Am I getting mixed up? Sorry, just keeping up. There's a lot of missed messages here because I keep talking for ages. Oh, thank you. Is it Adina? Adiana? How do you say your name? Is it Adina or Adiana? Either way, thank you for telling her she's pretty because she is pretty. Oh, Terraz's contortion, I also have an axolotl. His name is Pedro. So I keep mine in tubs. I keep them in. They're called really useful boxes here in the UK. Um, I've got no issues with it. Essentially, I've had my. I've been keeping reptiles since I was about 6 years old, and for maybe 6 years, I ran a rescue and rehome service out of my house when I was between the ages of 10 and 16. Earlier on, with the help of my dad, helping find new homes, going to collect animals, making sure we had supplies. Um, and let me tell you, a lot of animals really recognize space and they really recognize um, what's the word? Openness to their environment. But the issue with rural pythons and a lot of snakes is the more open space you give them can really stress them out. That's why we have to end up filling vivariums with wood and cork and bushes. You need to really, really saturate the space inside. Otherwise, it just ends up being a more stressful environment. Utilizing tubs, particularly opaque tubs, has only ever benefited my animals. They've only ever gone from not eating with previous owners or having really bad times to getting a sense of security all around them. So not just within their hides, but also within the tank itself. But like I said, this is a controversial point. I don't think either answer is incorrect, and I definitely don't think either answer is wrong. I just think it's a matter of always doing things animal by animal and not necessarily by a cookie cutter care sheet online, because that's not the case. And I think if you keep enough animals, you understand that pretty quickly that one can require quite a big deviation from the norm of what the other one that's near identical, even the same species, could want and require. So I'm going to pop her back into the backpack to nap because she is starting to get a bit tired. She's slowing down, and I think she probably wants to go back to sleep for a while, which is okay. I don't mind, and we have got some more friends to come up. Come on, sweetheart. Yes, there it is. There it is. Oh God, there it is. That's the backpack. But you need to move your tail. You can't take the mug with you. You can't have the mug. You can't have the mug. You can't have the mug. The mug is mine. I'm sorry. Hold on. Hold on. She's trying to grab a mug as well as me, stick me into the bag with her. That's it. That's a good girl. And now I must patiently wait whilst her tail stays outside. Yes. She has to find the right kind of coil before she's happy. Yes. Yes. Correct. Well done. Well done. And we just ever so slightly create a bit of darkness for her. And then we can set her down on the floor. Go on, my love. That's it, my pretty. That's it. Sorry, 2 seconds, making sure her tail's in. So I don't want to disturb her too much when she gets comfortable. Come on. Come on. Okay. So, the next friend. So, need to grab my phone charger. Hold on. To lean over real quick. God, so much crap. Okay. What's that to do? Might have to. Whoops. Might have to do. Well, that's an angle. That's definitely an angle. Reb. So, yeah, I actually have. When I was very, 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 very young, I had a corn snake. His name was Jojo, long before Jojo's Bizarre Adventures. And essentially, he just fucking went. I used I used a can it stay? Can it stay? Okay. Nope. Hold on. This is going so well. Can I do that? Will that work? That won't work. Oh. Hold on. I really should have invested in one of those like stay up holders. God, this is getting jankier by the second. Okay. Is that stable? That's stable enough. This is the angle we're gonna have to deal with. We're just gonna have to deal with it now. I have got a tripod and I've even got an attachment to my phone, but I have lost the attachment and it is causing me such grief. Such grief. Right. If we are quite ready. The next friend I would like to show you guys she is a new child of mine. I got her less than a couple of days ago. And she took down her first cricket. Oh God, yes, you're right, Rep. Sorry. So, when I was younger, I had a corn snake called Jojo, and I made the mistake of listening implicitly to the pet shop I bought her from. And so I ended up keeping her in essentially a really long critter keeper. Now, they aren't that secure. And when she was a baby, it was fine. When she was tiny, no big issue. As she got bigger and we got a bigger critter keeper, the plastic gets bendier the bigger the size of the tank. And one night, she just broke the plastic door in half by pushing on it. And the next morning, we woke up to a broken door and a missing snake. Now, here's where it gets really juicy. She was missing for maybe 4 months. And I do mean months. Like I lost all hope. I figured she was dehydrated and dead. I figured if she got outside, a bird would have picked her up. I was inconsolable as a child about that. And then summer started. This happened in winter, by the way, like January. And as spring and summer sort of rolled around, um, I was in the garden. I'm pretty sure I was trying to feed toads. And my neighbor poked her head over the fence and said, "Has anyone lost a snake recently?" And I was like, I lost a snake like 4 months ago. Why are you asking? And she said, "Oh, there's an orange snake just basking itself on my rockery." So I had to walk round to their house, go into their back garden, pick up Jojo, who looked no worse of the wear. He was just straight chilling. He was having a great time. He was fat, hydrated. He was just fucking chilling, having no problems, and welcomed me like it was just another day. And I was like, right, okay. But yeah, needless to say, I no longer kept snakes at all in those plastic critter keepers. I didn't want to sound like a walking idiot, so I did say lost. Because I think escaped tends to make the snake sound smarter than you. So, on the end of that lovely story, I would like you all to meet my darling, gorgeous, beautiful, sweet girl, Thaddeus. So, Thaddeus is a giant vinegaroon, and she is super, super, super sweet. These guys are totally harmless. They can secrete a vinegar smelling substance from their tail, but it's completely harmless. It's just a way to, yeah, she, don't gender Thaddeus. That's a good name, Beansy, and it's called a cricket. This, so she is well and truly settled in, which makes me extremely happy because vinegaroons are a bit notorious for taking a while to get situated and start eating again. But she she absolutely, 2 days, and she was like, "Nah, I'm cool. Feed me, man. Feed me." She was good. I'll pop her away now and we can get her later on. But just because, unlike kind of snakes, arthropods tend to get a bit more stressed when you handle them too much. And she is still relatively new to the gang, so I didn't want to stress her out too much. And now that she's away and Boudica is napping, I'm gonna do something really, really gross. I'm gonna have a cigarette. So 2 seconds. Gosh, this is rickety as balls. I'm thinking maybe I should just taped it into place. So I've been teasing Reb pretty much the past 3 days. Every single time I have a cig because she is dying for one, but she can't have one because she just had bloody coronavirus. My balls are rickety. Beansy, she hasn't actually sprayed for me yet. She just, I guess she hasn't felt uncomfortable enough yet. But I've had smaller species that they only spray when they feel stressed and they feel attacked or feel a bit uncomfortable. And I actually find the smaller species, the Asian species, tend to spray a lot more than these guys. These guys are a bit too big and clunky. Oh, okay. Oh, I did say that. I did say that. I sometimes even forget my own mannerisms as I'm saying them. The Devil's Horse Coach. Those are some ferocious little beetles that even I don't mess with because those mandibles are no joke. Jacqueline has come in to tell us all to be healthier human beings. Look, dude, it's a stressful time right now. we direly need our vices. And also, Reb is on the e-cig now. She's actually doing really, really good. And this is not an illegal substance. It's just a licorice paper before everybody freaks out and thinks it's a blunt wrap. So, Q&A portion, folks. Come on, give me your worst and grossest questions. I want to hear them. I'm sorry to hear that, Amy. I've got my stream going on my laptop as well, and I seem to be going still. Have you tried refreshing, my dear? Oh no, I love licorice out. So good. Both the sweet and the paper. So, Beansy, good question. Really good question. And may I just direct your attention to that wall there? That is where I keep my preserved specimens. So I pin and dry a lot of past arthropods, and I preserve them in these entomology cases here. I also have a bunch of specimens that have been gifted to me or imported from butterfly farms from around the world because we only take responsibly sourced animals, not ones from the wild. And I mean, if you guys are interested in that, I would love to do a kind of creepy tutorial on how to correctly pin different arthropods because it changes drastically from stick insects to beetles to God tarantulas. I've got a few tarantulas that are drying right now. So Jacqueline, it's actually a really integral part of entomology because when you're dealing with insects and arthropods, they tend to be incredibly fragile for travel. And behavioral entomology can only really be done in field, in situ. Um, when you preserve, whether it be in alcohol to preserve DNA and structure or just structure, then you can amass a larger collection just from a couple of seasons just by recently deceased arthropods. And it gives entomologists, scientists, botanists, anyone who wants to look at the collection for identification, for distribution information, for age and size variation. It's literally the cornerstone of entomology. Yeah, I've got a few things in isopropyl as well. I was given like 5 baby Pac-Man frogs like 3 months ago from someone who can no longer keep them. And I've got two left that are mine that I'm keeping for good. Two went to my friend, and unfortunately, one did not make it after a few days, and so it is preserved in isopropyl. No, Jacqueline, a lot of them are killed, particularly in the field. Um, but you should know that all arthropods, they don't have nerve endings, so they won't experience death in a complex manner. It will sort of be just like a stop button for them. That's why so many insects are tenacious, because parts of them can die and they can just continue going. So there has been a bit of debate on this, and by all means, this is a controversial subject. So any of the specimens that I have not personally kept and have died with me naturally are the ones that I've bought from collectors. And they have either been previously pinned for many years, or they arrived to me close winged, pretty fresh from the death. Um, and the thing is, though, the one thing that I will say is there has been a gigantic movement to move, particularly as people want more preserved butterflies and moths and insects for their houses and decor, which I think is actually a really good way to bring entomology into the home. Because if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be as much of an entomologist today without those weird gifts that my uncle gave me when I was like 4 years old of preserved tarantulas and scorpions in a frame. Um, but there was a huge effort to monoculture insects and arthropods in farms in situ as opposed to wild collections. Now, it does make them slightly more expensive because you're buying farmed animals as opposed to wild caught, but they're usually much healthier. They do not affect wild populations at all. Um, and they always come perfect. Like they never come with any tears or pieces missing or legs gone or eyes missing. They always come perfect because they've been nurtured as opposed to just plucked from nature. Now, entomologists in the field, and I've done this as well when I was out in Brazil doing research work. We still have to kill insects in the field for preservation purposes, particularly when it's species we haven't seen before. We have to make sure that we have it on file and geolocated. And I understand how that can be a bit dicey, but I do think that when you're dealing with creatures, it's kind of like plants. It's actually very similar to plants, because plants don't really have nerve endings either. So we kind of have this shared understanding that we're doing a necessary quote unquote evil for something much, much better. Oh, Beansy, no. When it comes to arthropods, they don't have the spectrum of requirements to even have those kind of issues occur. So you might get a bit of a dodgy shed when keeping insects in climates that they're not from. Like, hey, Casey, welcome back again. So when you're keeping insects in climates they're not from, like here in the UK, I've got things from Borneo, things from Australia, things from Brazil, things from America, and you have to kind of augment, like with plants, again, like with the plants we keep, you have to augment your conditions whether that be with heat mats and daily sprayings with moss linings to increase humidity within a small terrarium or tank, whether that be augmenting the food you give them. These are things you have to take in mind, but these are all significantly easier than anything else in any other subject of animal science, because arthropods are at their heart incredibly resilient. Hello, Steph. So, when I was in Brazil, I was working with my dissertation lecturers at uni. We did a bunch of different things because we had about 40 people go. We spent a week in Reserva Duque, which is a nature reserve just outside of Manaus in northern Brazil, which is the city in the heart of the Amazon. And then we spent a week and a half living on a riverboat whilst sailing up and down, or up and then down the Rio Negro. So my research was based around reptiles, fish, and insects. We had a few folks who were ornithologists who were doing bird catching and tagging. We had some folks who were primatologists working with surveying monkey distribution within the Reserva Duque, as well as augmented spot capturing along the Rio Negro. But I spent most of my time kind of in the dirt, hanging out with some really cool bugs and seeing some really cool plants. That's fine, Reb. You take Albert for a wee. So come on, more questions. I want your filthiest, grossest, most incredible questions. Hit me with them. If you've seen me in any other live stream, you know that I'm an open book of comedy and self-deprecation. Let's play on that, shall we? That's bloody good news, Beansy. Um, you're in the US, aren't you, my dear? Good question. Hard to answer. Can I say a lot? I've got a lot of bugs, dude. A lot of bugs. I've got like whole colonies of cockroaches and stuff, so the numbers will be quite high for those. Jacqueline, good question. Okay, so I'm not really a date person in the normal sense. I'm a bit of a cheap date and a bit of a I prefer I prefer Netflix and chill to a more traditional date. But I have done them, and let me tell you, one of them was the worst. So this guy, it's there we go. So we have bad Wi-Fi, and occasionally it just drops out. Can you guys still hear me? That's because I'm using my 4G. So, my date. Where was I when I dropped out? What was I saying? What part was I at? So then, I arranged a traditional date with this guy who did not look like his photo, but I was willing to look past that because we had a seemingly good connection on chatting. And I said, why don't we go to Canal Street in Manchester, which is called the Gay Village because it's all just gay restaurants, gay bars, pubs, the Gay Community Centre, the Gay History Centre, the LGBTQ Advocacy Centre, which houses homeless and at-risk LGBTQ folks. It's the place to be if you're in the community, and it's a really nice atmosphere wherever you go there. So I said, why don't we go there? Let's go to Earth Cafe, one of my favorite places. It is a little vegan and vegetarian bar with a really nice atmosphere, lots of plants. And so I met him at the train station at Canal Street and we walked to the cafe. When I say that I maybe got like 40 words out of him in the entire hour and a half, I'm not joking. I also bought him lunch and I was just like, dude, come on now. Like, I'm obviously going above and beyond here to be like and be a respectable and enjoyable date, bringing up cool topics, non-controversial topics to keep things chill and easy, talking about bands and art and food. And it honestly, and this is what really was the final nail in the coffin for me. The only time he seemed to pick up on the conversation was when he was talking about his dragon models. You're on a date and this date is pouring his fucking heart out, trying to keep a conversation going, and you reserve your energy to talk about dragon models. Now, I'm no snob. You know, everyone's got their funky interests. I'm literally would be a hypocrite if I was going to sit here and judge someone for having a quote unquote strange interest. But, but, when you have someone trying that fucking hard, oh no, Bill. Oh no. These were just like random made up species. So I can kind of get into that, but like made up by a bunch of 14-year-olds on Reddit, and they're like thousands. So I was like, okay, dude, you do you. I am going to walk you to the train station, and I'm going to come right back here and get shit faced. And I did. And I met a much lovelier man that night. Don't remember his name. We didn't spend that much time together after the morning. Come on then. What's the next sordid question that you can stab me with? Come on. Bleed me dry. So I am a vibrant Libra. I've not had my chart done like ever, and I've not really looked into it. I'm more of a herbologist kind of witch. So you'll see a bunch of jars of wolfsbane and sage and mugwort around my room, but not too many crystals and not too many astrological hinted things. Yes, indecisive, but beautifully intelligent. Just a little bit wicker, yeah, Janice. A little bit. Oh, hello, Mum. That is my mum, everyone, Lynn. So I am a little bit more an old school witch in a lot of senses. I really like Druidism here in the UK. I've spent a lot of my time reading about UK witchcraft and the history of witches here, and I do really like diving into that sort of stuff. Mum, I'm 25 years old. I can still be up. Oh God. Okay, direct the questions at me, please. At least I can spin them in a funny way. Don't. Oh, Mum. I said I'm an open book. No, not my family. Oh God. Maybe ease up on the particularly explicit questions, folks. Just keep it PG-13 whilst my mum's here. And there is Queen P. There is Queen Pamela coming in hot and bold and lettered. Reb, my mum did not like my bug and animal collection growing up. I usually give my mum cut flowers because I don't really know what kinds of plants she even likes. I know my mum has a Christmas cactus chilling in the kitchen. Um, and I'm pretty sure I left a couple plants behind years ago, but I don't think they're still about. Oh, I wish I had outbuildings. Hold on, make Pam moderator. Only fair considering I am a moderator on her lovely streams. Oh, we're talking about Jojo, my corn snake that went missing when I was a kid, Mum. I was telling them about how. Oh God, sorry, it's not a response to the animals. There, it's about plants. um. Good question, El. Good question. Just insects or arachnids and arthropods as a whole? Because I've got a lot of answers for this. Insects. Honestly, this is going to sound so stupid because I already have them. But I was asked this question today, and it's still going to be my giant leaf insects. They were the first animal that I read about that stole my heart, like stole it there and then. I was hooked. And to this day, they are my absolute favorite phasmid to keep and breed. That was what I was saying earlier, Beansy. So I think you guys are only actually allowed to keep the Philium philippinium and the Philium bicoloratum. They're two slightly smaller species from the Philippines. I think when Philium giganteum is available in the US, it's usually at an extortionate price. I'm pretty lucky because we have Germany just couple countries over, and they are die-hard entomologists there. They have huge collectors and huge groups of breeders just for specific species of insects. And Rebno, I live in Manchester. My mum lives in Portsmouth, which is about 450 miles south. They are really cool to breed, being seen, they're really beautiful. Um, they have a lot more color variation, particularly the Phyllium bicoloratum. They can be like a red burnt color, a yellowy crisp color, or the green color. Yeah, I'm about a 5 hour drive from Portsmouth, but I usually end up having to get the train and stuff, which turns that into about an 8 hour journey. Janice, you have a male and female hognose, each in 20-gallon tanks, but the male keeps trying to escape. Any thoughts on possible reasons? Yeah, hognoses are dicks. I love them, but they are dicks, and they will always look for a way to escape. They just love to try and get out. They are one of the moodiest, like, they are such fun animals because they love to be fake scary. Like they'll proper puff up because they are technically part of the cobra family. They'll try and puff up like they're big and scary, but then you'll pick them up and they'll be like, oh, okay. Like they're just so, they're all talk, they're all bark and no bite. Oh, Discord is lighting up. Oh, I bet you do, Reb. Reb loves to collect information about everyone. She loves, I swear, she has like a Rolodex of just like notes and points. Night, mum. Love you. Everyone say goodbye to my mum, please. Oh god, only a few functioning colonies of arthropods. Beansy, I have a lot of isopods that I colony for use not only in bioactive setups, but I just like having them. I've got a dubia roach colony, orange, death's head roach colony. I guess you could technically class my crested geckos as colonies now because I've almost always got babies just appearing. No night, mum. Have we all worked out why my screen is black and white? I don't know how that's happened. It happened a while ago, and I sort of caught it in my eye, and then I was like, "No, Scott, I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I'm using my phone for this live stream, but I'm using the Google Chrome app on my phone on desktop mode because my laptop just could not handle it." Yeah. Oh, what the fuck? And now it's color again. I am not sure what is happening with this. I don't know what is going on. I've not even touched my phone. I'm just sort of like leaning on stuff. Well, this is fun. This could very well be. This is taking a turn. Welcome to my paranormal live stream. We will contact the dead here on screen for everyone to watch. Oh, perfect opportunity to smoke. Now it's all black and white, like French noir. I don't know what's happening. I'm looking at the viewfinder on my phone and it's color, and then I look behind it on the live stream that I've got up and it's black and white. Oh, if they start swinging, they're coming down. They are holding on by a bloody thread. Really, I was told my aura was blue and white. Multiple occasions. Okay, now that my lovely mother has departed, back to the sordid, disgusting questions. I've just seen Reb's one, which is a good one, which I will answer now, and that is, when did I come out to my parents? So I came out when I was 15 years old. Um, I will say I came out probably slightly before I was ready to come out to them. Like most people, I came out to my friends at school first. Um, and I really wish I hadn't at that point, because some of those friends then decided to just go off on one and tell everybody. I think I told like three or four people. Oh my god, what is going on with this color? Um, I told like three or four people that I was gay. I think I may have actually told one person that I was bi, which, as Trixie calls it, bi now, gay later, which was shockingly true. Um, and one or two of those people decided to tell everyone that I was gay. And it was like fourth period. I was going into my English class, and this proper chavvy girl like burst in mid lesson and was like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "Fuck me, this is intense." But because I'm a kind of nut up or kind of boy, I said, "Yes, I am. Go away." And then, and this is going to sound incredibly Tumblr. You ready? Wait. And then my beautiful teacher, whose name was Stephanie, said, "Well, guys, I think we should give Aaron a round of applause for that." I can't tell you how mortifying that was. How mortifying it is to have people clap at you for coming out. It, folks, can we all calm down? We don't need to clap. It's just being gay. Fucking hell. But this will all make sense in a second. Um, my parents owned a cafe. In I was from a little town called Havant, and to walk home, I have to go to the cafe first, work a few hours, and then go home. But a lot of my school friends and classmates walked past and went into that cafe, usually even before me, because I usually took after school stuff as well as during the lessons and stuff. And I knew that there would be some fucking asshole who would walk into there and just say to my parents, like, "Your son's gay," or something really shitty. Um, so I knew that I kind of had to, I no longer had the luxury of time. And it was at that point that I walked to the shop, incredibly nervous. got my sister to hold my hand, and I told both of my parents in the back of the shop that day. My dad definitely tripped up the first few days. Coming from a Turkish family, there are certain things you have to kind of challenge within yourself before fully accepting something like that. So it did take a couple days, but now he's like the biggest LGBTQ advocate and would literally slit someone's throat for being transphobic in front of him. Like I've gotten him to that level. Yeah, I'm from Northern Cyprus originally. My family are from a little village called Yenibogazici in Famagusta. I usually go every year. Um, Not this year, due to certain issues regarding a global pandemic. Fun fact: my granddad is still the mayor of that village, and the village is literally only about 400 people. I don't speak fluent Turkish, but I get by. Like I can have a small conversation and I can understand. So I get to kind of go to my family and say merhaba nasılsın, which is like hello, how are you? I can say hesteng chai, which is like would you like a cup of tea, or hesteng coffee, which is would you like some coffee? Um, I can get by, but my dad tends to have to be with us because he's the proper like blood-born Turkish Cypriot who can speak fluently with no issues. My family are all hardcore socialists as well. So when I go there, I really get to chill out with my beautifully radical family with like huge pictures of Che Guevara on the wall and Lenin and it's just like and Fidel Castro. A lot of my family are in politics, Cyprus, fighting for the socialist movement to come back there. We had a pretty heavy loss during the war. Um, but this is quite intense conversation, I imagine, for for a cheeky live stream. I don't have any Turkish grammars in my name. I actually, mine and both my sisters' names are actually just bastardizations of English and Turkish names. So my actual name is Aran, but that has accents and is spelt the same way. But obviously it's just Aaron. My sister's name is Chanel, which is kind of been split with the English Chanel. And then my other sister, Lien, has been split with Liane. So it's Aran Chanel Lien, but actually it's Aaron Chanel Liane. Having a great time. And whilst both my sisters got Turkish middle names, for some reason I got Michael. I don't I still don't really know why. Like I think my one of my sisters is Chanel Sevim, and the other one is Leanne Heidi Renee, and I'm like, okay. I got Michael. Reba's definitely taking notes right now. I am a wealth of strange, weird facts and knowledge, particularly about my weird family. But I am down the middle because I am on one side. Reb's questions. I'm a size 12, Reb. Take from that what you will. Steph, what did you study at uni? Do you work in that field now? Study research? Not a very interesting question. That's a very interesting question, Steph. Don't be so silly. So I studied zoology and biology at uni. I still technically am because I'm on hiatus. Let's just say that it's been a rough year and a half. But I do hope to go back and complete my course and move on to masters within the next year and a half. I think it's a US 13 or 14. Yeah, very, very similar. I'm the youngest, so I was kind of the most British-esque. My favorite film of all time is Kill Bill Volume 1. Oh, Beansy, are you heading off? It was lovely to have you, and thank you for coming. Yeah, I adore Kill Bill. The soundtrack alone is incredible. My least favorite movie, probably the American ripoff of the Swedish horror film Let the Right One In, which is a cult classic. But America had to make a horrifically Hollywood version called Let Me In, which had none of the nuance, none of the dark imagery. It just had the bullshit. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy people know this. Thank you so much. Because in my friend group, um, I end up kind of pushing the weirder European horror films. Um, and a lot of people have only really seen the Americanized versions, and that really taints their experience of watching the originals and the actual films first, because they'll say like, "Oh yeah, this happened in that one," and I'm just like, "No, listen, listen here." Do you have a key for your lock? No, it's to signify the eternal lock of the proletariat under capitalism. This chain will only be broken by revolution and the blood of capitalists. I've got this really good book. I've got this really good book that you guys should totally check out sometime. It's a really easy read, just a couple pages. Some simple, statements and metaphors for what's happening. Let me tell you, if you're into vampires, you should really check out this book and see where the origin of the European vampire kind of came from. Hint, aristocracy. Oh my god, imagine a live stream of just reading passages from Das Kapital. Lights, very light. It's not a it's it's a very it's a very easy thing to process just in. And if you're feeling a bit kind of overwhelmed and want something a bit more kind of let's see, want something a bit more kind of Palestinian focused, Rosebud. Question the forms of quote unquote terrorism that the West would lead you to believe. This is what happens when left tube and plant tube kind of just like meld into one. We all end up saying the same good things together, which I love. Oh, speaking of left tube and fun times, I spent this morning having a great time on Twitter. There was a trans woman being like mocked and commodified en masse, and thankfully, a bunch of leftists, myself included, had a few words to say to the transphobes in the comments. This did also end up causing quite a few homophobes to find my Twitter profile, but I mean, homophobia, man, so 2005. One called me a fudge packer, and I was like, did you just watch that one episode of South Park where they called Tom Cruise a fudge packer and just take notes for the rest of your life to try and be edgy? So pathetic, man. I do love Harry Potter because, honey, my legs are hairy and there are pots everywhere. Honey, oh, honey, honey. I have not ran into Hagrid, unfortunately. Though I did have a weird crush on him. I say did, probably still do, have a weird crush on him. I like big, tall men because they make me feel protected. And because I'm quite of a thick boy, it's hard to find men who are bigger and bulkier than me, you know? I'm sorry, did not mean to send you west there, Jacqueline, I promise. I also have the Battle Royale book because Battle Royale was a fabulous film that originated the phenomenal culture of pitting teenagers against one another in death battles, but they did it right. And there were also really heavy motifs about class revolution and seizing means. Where Hunger Games lightly touched on things, Battle Royale eloquently explained them. And the Hunger Games, I definitely did not mind seeing some revolutionary mindsets make their way seemingly out of nowhere into the mainstream. But I do, yeah, like Pam says, it was very, very, very entry level, and it really didn't touch base on a lot of the kind of platforms and goals that leftists like us have, you know? Yeah, I wasn't really a fan. I don't read much fiction. Um, I like reading psychology. I like reading theories. I don't super get into fiction. Um, and I do wish that it didn't take a incredibly obvious metaphor for the imperialistic tendencies of capitalism and the nationalistic tendencies of capitalism to form a Hollywood blockbuster. I do wish it was far more common and far more relatable than that. I don't like Disney. Um, I have very serious problems with the entire corporation and its monolithic dominance of the US media, that and Fox. Ah, Pam, as much as I wish I could have liked that, Chris Pratt was a leading voice in that, and he has unfortunately since come out as a proud gun-toting Trump supporter and lover of capitalism and old school conservative values, which just absolutely nope. I used to be so enamored with him, and I was utterly disgusted by that. I love how this has been a really delightfully light conversation and not heavy at all. Oh, and I'm back in black and white. Okay. When I was younger, obviously we all grew up on the doctorate that was Disney's sort of centrist platform, ever so slightly white nationalistic, and definitely a fan of tokenism. But I think as we get older, we definitely feel a lot more comfortable challenging those things. Ah, Pam, asking the good questions. Obviously, ContraPoints. I think we'd all be remiss not to mention the mother and goddess that is Natalie Wynn. I also watch H Bomber Guy. I watch Ollie. I watch. Why do I feel like I'm missing out on a whole bunch of really popular leftist YouTubers? Um, the issue with LeftTube on YouTube is we do have some problems still. For example, we have to be careful of TERFs because TERFs love to present themselves as Marxists, as leftists, but in reality, it's a pseudo fascist guise to attack trans folks. And it becomes painfully obvious when they drop that guise. We also have to be careful of leftists who are a bit too tanky because don't get me wrong, I've studied the Cold War, I've studied Stalin and Lenin and Trotsky as much as the next leftist is going along. And though I understand the admiration for them, I can't understand the love because I don't think you should be loving any authoritarian presence. I think you should be I think it should be a constant back and forth of compromise and respect on both parts because totalitarian authoritarianism is literally dystopia. Like, like I like Lenin out of the vast majority of Vladimir Lenin spoke to me a lot, mainly because he was so much more progressive even than most of his communist peers. Side note, when we say communist, we don't really mean actual communism because it hasn't actually really been achieved yet. We definitely go more using the kind of partied or parlayed term for quote unquote communist, but we really mean socialist. Oh, I also watched some more news. Oh my god, I watched some more news with Cody and with Katie Stoll and Robert Evans. I listened to some more news and even more news. I also listened to Worst Year Ever, The Daily Zeitgeist. I listened to On the Tip, which is like a feminine, I think it's a transcentric. Is it On the Tip? The Tip? I listen to quite a few gay podcasts, but a lot of them are unfortunately a bit more kind of liberal centrist. But luckily, they don't tend to discuss politics too much. They tend to spend more time talking about RuPaul's Drag Race, which I'm kind of here for. Yeah, democracy doesn't really exist, though. That's the problem. Um, I do say that flippantly, and I say that flippantly because it takes all of 0.1 second to recognize that the moment you mention democracy, you have to mention doctorate. And then you have to mention the levels of doctorate and levels of integration of thoughts and processes from young people, because once you're creating that, you're talking about concepts of molding human minds to follow a doctorate, and that's not very democratic. I like to talk about the illusion of democracy, and I think that it's quite an important thing because it makes a lot of people feel safe and comfortable, and that's good and important. But sometimes you need to challenge that illusion. Do we have any more lovely, lovely, lovely questions before YouTube comes and shoots me in the head for talking this much about leftist policy? I think that I would get into a lot of trouble, Pam, if I was on a podcast. I mean, technically still on a fly ban from the US because they deemed me a threat to national security, which was, if anything, a compliment. This this little gay boy apparently is a threat to the white nationalist empire of imperialism. I took pride in that. Oh, this was actually during the Brazil research trip. I was detained in both Philadelphia and Miami. I was sat in a Miami cell for 5 hours waiting for the UK diplomacy and diplomats to get into a. There was a big issue. They caused a bit of a diplomatic crisis by detaining me because, as much as a leftist as I am, I was still unfortunately holding a fellow imperialistic passport, and the UK took issue with the US detaining me for reasons they reserved the right not to tell me about, but that I was a threat to national security. The day I was supposed to fly back from Brazil was Trump's inauguration, and they revoked my flying rights again in that 2 week span of me being in Brazil. And when I got to the airport, everyone there said they'd never seen this happen before. They'd never seen someone fly in on an American airline 2 weeks ago and then be given a no-fly notice whilst being in the fucking jungle. So I ended up having to stay in Brazil for 6 extra days. Whilst they caused yet another diplomatic crisis. I think they just did not want me in the country during Trump's inauguration because I had a connecting flight in Philadelphia, which I guess was just uncomfortably close to Washington for them. Oh, oh, I don't get on with the police either, Jacqueline. Oh, of course they aren't, Janice. I called not one, but two separate security guards capped as drones because they would not answer my questions. And when they got like offended by it, by saying like, "Oh, how dare you? I'm not doing this to you." And I said, first of all, you are doing this to me. Your words come out of your mouth, and it's also the organization you choose to represent doing this. These are your actions, not anyone else's. I don't think I was part of that website there, Joe. I don't tend to run too much with anarchists, only because um, I'm really not a fan of accelerationism, because it puts the people who are already oppressed and marginalized at the greatest risk. And to me, you may as well take a gun and shoot a black trans woman in the head if that's what you want, because you're just putting them to death by doing that, by causing that much destruction. And you'll notice that it's usually very white male centric anarchist groups, and even a lot of them are bloody anarcho capitalists, which is just ridiculous. So I tend to stick pretty wholeheartedly to the socialist areas of the internet. Big fan of the Socialist Rifle Association. I do absolutely believe that the proletariat should be armed. I also believe in good gun management, and I also believe in taking guns out of the hands of fucking white men with issues with minorities. Yeah, fuck ANCAPs. I can't. I can't. What's the point? Do you just want to set fire to some black people? Is that what you want? Like, it's such a weird thing to do. I want to cause disruption and chaos to get to the exact same result we're living in right now. But I just want to kill some marginalized folks whilst I'm at it. Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, oh, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. Note that Antifa don't do that. The black masks will have your back in that situation, regardless of gender, nationality, race, or age. The black masks will have your back when Nazis come toting with guns and torches. God, this went from like chill time with my snake and cornu bug to full blown left tube in the space of like 10 minutes. That's Antifa. That's the beauty of Antifa. Because it's not just one thing, it's anti-fascist. Do you have we so rarely get a organization that unifies the left. Left leftists, we love to argue amongst ourselves. We love to argue postmodern Leninism with neo-Maoism. We love to argue specifics. But whilst we're doing that, the right, which is notoriously good at banding together and unifying, for example, the Unite the Right rally, which turned into a Nazi fuckfest, whilst we're doing that, they're already out there with burning fucking crosses and threatening marginalized groups of people. Antifa have successfully pushed so much bullshit aside. Look, anti-fascist, we are going to come together and we are going to defend marginalized people and ourselves and the greater world from Nazis, from the threats of fascism, and we are going to highlight it day in, day out. And they have done a fantastic job of that so far. Correct, El. America has the largest prison system with enslaved black men. Slavery never left, folks. It just adapted. Do we have any more questions in the chat? Perhaps something a bit more light-hearted compared to the pretty heavy doses of leftist politics that we have been debating over the past half an hour. Well, Steph, we are a little bit dystopian right now. We're still on lockdown. We've got another 3 weeks at least, potentially more than that. Um, two more questions we have. Are you selling Costco's and where did you get your hat? I got my hat from a really cool shop, which is called Epic Massive, which is just a bunch of witchy gay stuff here in Manchester in a place called Affleck's, which is like an internet kid's dream land. And yes, I am slowly selling my Crescent babies. I tend to take a while because I really heavily vet people beforehand. Even though they're very easy animals to keep, I just, for my comfort and peace of mind, I don't want to just throw a baby crescent gecko at anyone, you know? Shit, that was. What? Reb? Reb, what? Shit, that was me on the wrong account somehow about the hat. Oh, oh. Feeling ashamed that you didn't ask first. Luckily, I can actually give you a link to who sells this. They do a few really cool hats. They're also where I got my feminist hat from. They're also where I got my SNK Wings of Freedom hat, and my Trixie Mattel patch hat is from there as well. Basil. Grow it in water. If I ever have basil, I chop it and I put it in water and I let it root up and then I do not touch it. It can live hydroponically because fuck trying to grow it in soil unless it's outside. Show us pictures of. Well, my phone is recording me. My laptop is currently showing me. Oh, I'm back in color again. My ring size. Um, I'm not sure. I just buy a men's large, or I buy the ones that are like old. You can alter the size. Janice knows what's up. That's what I do too. I buy it from the store in soil. I strip that soil away and it goes straight into water. Oh, don't worry about the heat mat. Basil is really cold hardy, so it'll be happy. It'll be happy in room temperature water. It'll be really. It needs so much light for such a small herb. Shut up, Reb. He's trying to look at my booty. Do you think smoking is bad for plants? So it technically is, but it kind of also removes the toxins from the room, which is nice. And all of my really sensitive plants that are dear to my heart live under glass anyway, and I kind of rely on the bulk of it for my spider plants and pothos to do the most of the work for me. You should check out using LEDs for growing basil. It's not going to burn them, and you can put as much light on them as you want that way. I've got this one behind me, which is a T5 fluorescent unit with 4 T5 bulbs, and it dries out the soil of all the plants below it so fast, so fast. It should be noted that I'm usually downstairs doing this, not usually in my room, but I couldn't bring like all of this to my front door. Really, that could be because the air might be a bit dry, Janice. Pam is the person to ask about coleus indoors. She is the absolute queen of coleus. How long have I been on live for? Oh God, been on live for nearly 2 hours. Wow. Okay. I did not expect to be on live this long. Didn't think people would be this interested. Oh, and to my UK folks, is there anyone in here from the UK? Probably not, because all you lovelies are in the US on a good time zone, whereas I am straight up chilling in the UK. I'm going to be doing I'm planning on doing a Pink Princess giveaway for my 1,000 follower count on Instagram because I'm reaching it much sooner than I thought I was. Hey, Pam's back. Pam, we had a courteous question from Janice saying that her leaves are browning a bit under LEDs indoors. I said it's probably from lack of humidity in the air. Would I be correct? Oh, you have some amazing, amazing plants for sale in Finland. And some amazing insects too. I almost did a master's in Finland in entomology, actually. I'm very jealous. I've actually got a Ficus deltoidea coming from Finland this week. The only people I found who are growing it in Europe, and it was cheap too, really cheap. Like I was seeing a few a few gouging price givers on Instagram who live in Germany selling single tip cuttings of Ficus deltoidea for €50, which I was just like, that's horrifically, that's horrific. The greenhouse that I bought from in Finland was only €11 for a 40 centimeter tall tree. So, oh, Reb, thank you so much for coming. Everyone say goodbye to Reb, please. And do check out her most recent video where she takes the role of a Stepford wife robot to an Oscar level performance. Oh, some grumpy leftists, that's a really bad deal. That's a really bad deal. They are not a special or rare philodendron. They are a man-made cultivar, and there are millions of them. They're currently selling for €15 here, and I think places in the US are even selling them for $20 for full plants. Some people see the name philodendron and they just assume that they can charge ridiculous amounts for them. Yeah, Lindsay's right. Apparently, they are becoming into mass production because they've been tissue cultured. Philodendron hastatum, same thing. They have become really popular because they've been tissue cultured as well, so they're nice and cheap. Jesus Christ, Bill, that's a horrific price. How much are pink princesses going for in the US right now? $100 on eBay. Can't get them too much. So when I got my first pink princess, was a starter plant, and it was £45, which I think averages out about 60 US dollars. And now cuttings here are going, depending on the variegation level and if they're mature or not, are going for between 40 and 150, depending on the size. When I sell my cuttings, I usually put them up for like 30 to 40, but I only ever sell the established babies with the mature variegation, which has like half moons and the deep black/red coloration as opposed to the pink and green. Oh no, they grow so fast. Burrow's tail, that's Sedum morganianum. I've got one too. I've had for 4 years, and it's probably only grown maybe a couple inches, 10 centimeters on each vine since then. Hello, Lyra. Pam, if I could, I would send you a pink princess off the fucking bat, along with Macodes and probably Ludizias and Electrocylus jewel orchids, because I know how cool they are and how well you would do with them. Oh, I haven't even asked yet. In honor of Queen P, how are we all doing today on a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being great and 10 being just a bit fucking shitty? I'm sitting pretty good at like a 1 or a 2 right now. Was extremely nervous for the live stream, and it has turned out to be a really positive, beautiful experience. So thank you all for doing that. Good. 2-2. Yes, what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Some good vibes. Everyone's on a 1 or a 2. Oh, L. What is the back and forth? What's throwing you to a 6? Also, Bill, what are you drinking tonight? Oh, that sounds delightful. Gardening all day. Oh, that's pretty high. What's cracking in Finland? Actually, how are Finland doing with quarantine and stuff? I honestly don't know. Right there with you, L. Then, then the vaccine. That sounds bloody amazing, Bill. And that's good to hear. Probably better than UK is doing with its reaction. Are we going to ask any more sordid and grim questions before I depart from this glorious live stream? I would very much like to end it on a bang. Oh, wait. Before. That's probably true, Lyra. Goodness knows that Trump is now telling people to inject themselves with disinfectant, which is, yeah, that's a really great idea, my friend. About as good as injecting autistic folks with bleach. Before I sign off, I figured I'd have Boudica out for a little bit to come and say hi again. For those who may have missed her in the earlier section of the screen of the screen of the stream. Sadly, house running. Yes, house. You didn't earlier this my point. Oh, thank you, Amy. That's really lovely. Oh, honestly, if Trump could, I would love to see Trump eat his words and say, when are you going to start injecting disinfectant there, Mr. Scary Orange Big Man? Don't forget the same, oh God. He says it was sarcasm, apart from the part where he was called by a lobbyist who represented the companies who wanted him to do that. English setters. I don't think I'm familiar with those, Bill. Don't forget I'm an indoor plant hoe. The only outdoor plants that I tend to fuck with are the witchy ones. Forgot how much she hates me wearing beanies. Oh, no, I guess not. I'm not familiar with the breed. We have a lot of Patterdales, a lot of French bulldogs and English bulldogs around here, a lot of Chihuahuas, a lot of Border Collies. There are quite a few folks with a lot of different terrier mixes, but But I tend to err on the side of um adopting and not shopping for dogs. So when I've got my own place, my friend did this year, I'm looking to adopt either a Staffy or a Chihuahua because they're the two most common breeds that are in kennels at the moment. Oh, welcome, Shadow Plants. You are unfortunately, we are on the tail end of the stream. The worst thing I've ever smelled. Um, when we had to form ammonia crystals in the lab, it smelt like piss that had been fermented. I also when I was younger, I was playing hide and seek. Basically, where I used to live, there was a place called the Co-op Funeral Home, like across the road. And when I was younger, my parents always told me it was an ice cream shop because of all the giant fridges and stuff, and we never went in there. And I was playing hide and seek with some friends of mine, and the back door was open, so I snuck into the fridge room to hide. And when the lights came on, I think it was like motion sensor, there were just dead bodies, and they smelt like rhubarb, sweet. And to this day, I can't have rhubarb anywhere near me because it brings me like immediate flashbacks of the smell of death, of like embalmed bodies. Yeah, I'm not sure. It was kind of it. The closest thing would be rhubarb, but all I remember it being is incredibly sweet, just like painfully sweet on my nose. And since then, the only thing that's triggered it has been rhubarb. Oh, dude, I'm just a big bundle of unresolved trauma. Right, my lovelies. I think it might be time for me and Boudica to get some sleep, as we are now on 10 past midnight. Um, I would like to say thank you all so bloody much for coming and making this live stream, my first live stream, so fantastic and so lovely, enjoyable, even with the talk of politics and death. And I'm very confident that I'll probably make this a weekly thing, if not maybe a little. I don't know. I don't really have an upload schedule. You know how much of a mess I am, and but I love you guys. I love you too, Pam. You are all fucking so phenomenal. And before I start crying, I should probably head off. So say goodbye to Boudica. See you guys. Mwah.